the tool, go here, you can connect to any of your databases. For example, you can connect to the users and groups, and these users and groups can reside in Alfresco, or if you have an external database for the users such as LDAP or Active Directory or Novell or any kind of directory, you can plug in. Another beauty which is supported by Alfresco, which is not supported by most of the systems, is it has something called cascading of the user database. That means you can have multiple sources. You can have one LDAP, one Active Directory, one Intel, all connected in a sequence. So it checks for the user authentication in that sequence. Pretty cool. That means for security purpose, if you want to have two separate user databases, one for your internal employees and one for your external customers, you can do that. So that is a classic advantage with this particular framework. And then what you can do is you can secure the folders. For example, I can say I can go to this folder called Finance Department. Let's say I have multiple folders in Alfresco. I can secure a very minute level at a specific subfolder level and say who can see the documents or files or HTML documents or videos, who can be able to upload, who should be able to read, who should be able to delete. So you can have full control of the framework. For example, in this case, I want in the finance department, I want to go here and say who are all the users. So you're going to say these are only the 3 kinds of users who have access to my system at this particular subfolder level. Okay, I can go and invite other people. I can say, oh, okay, I can go to the users or groups and say I can pick up one particular user and say, oh, okay, this particular user, I can say this particular user is the editor on this particular folder. So you have a flexibility of selecting the security in terms of who can be able to do actions on a specific subfolder level within the repository. And then there are something called, let's say, on every folder, I can specify the business rules. That means I can specify what kind of action should happen when a document is coming into the folder. And I can say if I'm getting a contract, I can say please add additional properties to a contract so that I can track the contract. There are here the number you see, this means there are 2 business rules on this particular folder. You can control the business rules. It says this business rule is applied on the parent folder, so you're able to see. So these 2 are applied. It says version all my documents, because these are all the contracts which I need to enable version control automatically, and then send email notification. It says whenever somebody receives a contract, no matter how you receive it, you might have got an email. So there is an email plugin into Alfresco. You might have got a fax. So there is a fax plugin, or through the file system you get an email notification saying that, oh, okay, there is a contract which is received by the system. So you can send automated email notification. You can specify who should get the email notification and so on. Okay, and then if you go to, let me go to the different. So I'm in this particular folder. If you see here, you can specify the discussion forum on the folder or at the entire system, or you can have discussions at a specific file level also. For example, let's say this is the proposal. If 10 people are working, you can click and you can discuss on that proposal. I can say, okay, so you can enable the discussions on that particular folder. Okay. And then you can have version control. So this is the view of a particular file where you can see lots of options for checking out downloads, managing the properties. You can extend the properties, and then you can specify the multilingual content. That means you can have multilingual content for a specific file. You can pick up any language. I can say, oh, you need to have the translated version of the file. The translation is not automatic by Alfresco. You need to plug in a third-party product for translation. But the system allows you to link all the documents which are related and in different languages. Yeah, and then you can have workflows. You can have categorization, so you can categorize the file, and then you can have version control. Right now it shows you, okay, the file has different version controls. You can compare the files and properties with the previous versions, because the version control here is not only for the binary content of the file, it also for the additional metadata is also version controlled. So that is another classic advantage of this particular approach. Okay, let me quickly see what else we need to have. Category advanced search. Okay, so there is a pretty classic search engine. It does a full text search. Again, there is an open source search engine embedded into Alfresco called Lucene, which is again highly scalable and high performance actually. So you look at the options, right? You can do lots of searches, advanced searches, and you can also create reports out of this. And then workflow, yeah. So basically, I can pick up this document and push it through workflow process. So there are lots of workflows available. You can have simple workflow, you can have advanced workflow. So you can have a very, very complex workflow scenario implement for a document approval, because this is one thing which we implement at every customer place, because no customer will have a standard, nobody will use standard out of the box workflow. They will have their approval process for a document or a contract or a file or a video or a web page is so different that they say this particular contract is in this department, so it goes through 5 levels of approval. Okay, this particular web page goes through 2 levels of approval. This particular contract value is more than say 100,000. That means it needs additional approval process. So we can have conditional switching of approval processes and so on. So you can define and then say, okay, you can say workflow, who should specify, and you can specify the due date. When do you want this workflow to be completed? You say, oh, I want this to be completed by this one. You can say, when it is done, please notify me. You can assign to the people ad hoc. This is ad hoc workflow. If you see on the top, that means you're picking up and assigning on the fly to the people. But you can have a predefined workflows and so on. Yeah. So very, very powerful workflow engine. Due to time constraints, I'm not going through the complete functionality. I'm just covering high-level features of the tool. And then dashboards. Yeah, it has a very classic dashboard mechanism where you can get into the dashboard in terms of what are the tasks assigned, press releases and so on. You can see a bunch of dashboards. So let me quickly cover this. Yeah. So you can also have multilingual. You can have complex workflow scenarios implemented for approvals, and then there is a graphical tool which is an Eclipse plugin where it enables you to define your workflow process and deploy to Alfresco. So this is called as hot deployment. That means you do not have to shut down the server. When the server is running, you can change the workflow and you can deploy it in the production environment. So that is a cool functionality. And then we have a forms processing. That means you can process all the paper-based documents with Alfresco. So you can connect your scanners, you can connect your fax machines, and there is a connector which will allow you to push the documents into Alfresco, and then you can push them into workflow approval process. Let's say you got a claim document. Somebody has claimed certain thing, and then the document can go through the process. Or there is an admission form, it can go through the process and so on. Okay, so you can go to workflow, and this can be clustered. I think I have given a presentation in the first, I think yesterday, on Sesame Street, where we are launching serving content for 80 million people. So we have 6 servers in a cluster in Alfresco. So you can scale it up into any levels. And then you can control the quotas of the people. You can say who can have what kind of storage on the server. So you can specify the quotas and so on. And you can also specify a multi-tenant system. That means in one installation of Alfresco, you can have multiple sub-installations. So now just I'll quickly give the second flavor of Alfresco as a SharePoint alternative, where you can replace Microsoft SharePoint as an alternative. So this is the SharePoint alternative. It's a different interface to the repository. You can create the dashboard and so on. You can have many number of websites within the site. It's similar to the live reportal demo you have seen. So you can click on this. See here, you can go through this. You can customize the dashboard. So you can say how many columns you want and what kind of components you want and which column you want these things, and you can say I don't want this, so you can drag and drop into you can remove it, or you can move it across the boxes, and pretty cool. So this is the dashboard control. and you can control who can see this. See, this is a pretty classic sharing and collaborative environment.